as Tennessee gets ready for a huge game. It's in Tuscaloosa on Saturday night. We'll start with there will be an availability report this evening. Any indication of what we might see there? Jermod McCoy, his status, and then other players you're paying attention to on the health front for Tennessee.
Not much has changed with Jermod until he goes to the practice field in the team period. It's hard to see him being a factor on a Saturday. Now, the moment he does do that, and I do think there's still a belief there that he will at some point, then I think that things drastically change. I do believe, just talking to several different people over the last couple of days, that DeSean Bishop's going to be able to go in this game, again, barring any kind of setback. The optimism is there that he'll be able to play and help this team this week. Ethan Davis, there's some optimism there with the strength levels that he's going to be able to play in this football game, which obviously will help Tennessee's tight end room. David Hobbs is good to go. So pretty similar to what we saw a week ago, except for the addition of a potentially Ethan Davis.
What are keys, factors, maybe stats that you'll be paying attention to as the game goes along that you think will matter the most in this kind of matchup, Tennessee against Alabama?
Third down conversions for Alabama, fourth down conversions for Alabama. Tennessee's inability to get off the field has really hurt them. And you look at the number of defensive plays that Tennessee's been out on the field this year, it's a lot. And some of that is self-induced because Tennessee can't get out of their own way early in games. Now, late in games, when you're gassed and you played a bunch of snaps, okay, I can buy into that. But their inability to get off the field cost them several snaps during the course of the season because they can't get off the field. And all of a sudden they're out there for an extra 5 or 6 snaps on a series. Or special teams muffs a punt. And so after you get a stop like at Mississippi State on the first drive, you have to go right back into the game. So they can help themselves defensively, and then the offense can help them as well by obviously ball control, giving them more time on the bench, and then extending drives themselves. The ability to, even if you don't score, pick up a first down or two, flip the field, give the defense a little bit more time to rest. I think that stuff matters. So Tennessee's got to be able to get off the field. Alabama goes for it on fourth down a lot, especially when they're on the plus side of the 50. So you have to try to defend, for 4 straight downs. And, that can become tiresome for a defense that, again, has struggled to get off the field on third or fourth down ever since Syracuse.
Pricevolquest.com. I was doing a little online shopping, AP. I was looking at Penn State's commitment list. Do you think Tennessee will like anything on the rack there with Penn State's recruits who are currently committed or ones that decommitted? You think Tennessee has a chance with any of those players?
Yeah, we'll see, Jason. Tennessee's constantly looking at rosters of teams that could potentially have a coaching change or already have had a coaching change this year. And so they're constantly doing that. They're looking at, a couple of different schools or in particular, they're looking at a tight end, Luka Wolf, that's committed to Cal. And of course, Justin Wilcox is at Cal, and, we'll see what happens with him down the road. But, they're going to continue to look at it. Nobody that I know definitively that they're going after with the Penn State class. With Penn State kids, you're talking about normally Northeast kids. And so, do they want to stay closer to home and go to a Maryland, or do they, look at other schools up in the Big Ten region potentially instead of coming south? We'll see. But, yeah, they're looking through all those different rosters, not just Penn State, but Virginia Tech and others.
Well, Keemon Spell, that one of the top-rated running backs in the 27 class, decommitted. I know he put out a graphic where Tennessee was one of his top 8. You think Tennessee has a good chance there, or is Tennessee all in on the kid from Baylor High School there in Chattanooga?
The number one priority on any position for 2027 is David Gabriel Georges at Baylor. So he's the top option and the second option and the third option. All right. They're all in on DGG.
Yeah, so
DGG, yeah, you know me.
Update us after this past weekend then, Austin Price Volquest, David Gabriel Georges home weekend this past weekend against Arkansas. How'd things go? Where does that leave Tennessee in that pursuit?
Knocked it out of the park. parents had a blast. They were down from Canada, and Tennessee is, I think, the team to beat there. I know some people that feel like Ohio State's deep in that one, and they are. I'm not going to discount their chances, but I still think Tennessee's done a fantastic job of recruiting David. And, like I said before, a week or two ago, there are people at Baylor that are big Tennessee people that are in his ear. He's got people that are on his current team, like a Gabe Osinda and a Jamian Theodore, that are committed to Tennessee. All that stuff matters, and relationships matter to David as he goes through the process. So it certainly feels like Tennessee's done a fantastic job with him, and they'll need to continue to do so because teams like Ohio State and Georgia are not going to quit. They'll have to keep the pedal down. But right now, I do feel like Tennessee's got a bunch of momentum with David.
You have a relationship with that Simpson family, Tai. Tennessee recruited him. There's some history between the two, Tennessee and his family. How do you think he's handling this week and how he's going to handle Saturday?
That's a great question. We talk about this on tomorrow's podcast, just at Volquest. Just when you play a game and you want it so bad, and I mean, listen, Tai grew up watching Tennessee. I know he picked Alabama, but he has a great affinity for Tennessee. That just didn't work out in the recruiting process. But I think he very much respects everything about Tennessee. He's going to want this one, obviously. And that can work a couple of different ways. You could play the lights out. You could also be too amped up and struggle a little bit. So, I think for Tai, he's got to manage his emotions in this game. How does he come out? Does he come out too amped up, wanting it so bad he forces things? Or does he come out and he's just, one of those where he's in the zone? I think the emotions of Tai Simpson are an underlying thing no one talks about because he is playing against a school that he grew up watching, probably cheered for a good amount when he was a kid, and now he's going against them. And he wants to get a chance to win the football game. He's not been the starter the first 3 years he was there. In 2 of those 3 years, Tennessee won the game, and the other one, Tennessee led at halftime. So this is his first chance to start against Tennessee.
David Sanders Jr., he played in reserve this past weekend, rotated in. What do you think about his role this week and moving forward after he's played in the last couple of games at right tackle?
I think it's only going to continue to grow, Josh. And talking to some people over there, Jesse Perry spent the bye week in a boot. And so he wasn't able to get a lot of work at right guard. And he hadn't played right guard in their 6 weeks, dating back to fall camp. And I think that's a big reason why you didn't see him shift inside, and he and David kind of rotated at right tackle, and they just left Sham at left guard a lot last week. How much time does Jesse get to actually work at guard this week in practice leading up to this game? I think that'll determine how much, we see him in a guard and David at right tackle. I think David's role will continue to grow.
Very good. Volquest.com, as Austin mentioned, got podcasts you can check out coming up. They have work that you can read, you can see, and you can hear at Volquest.com covering Tennessee football, recruiting, basketball season, tipping off, and everything else going on. Volquest.com. Hey, Austin, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for hopping on with us, and we'll talk to you again soon.